Hello, hello, I'm Jaleesa, this is Green Mable, and today we will talk about snake plants. So snake plants come in so many different varieties. The variety that I have had for the longest time has been the Sansevieria Moonshine. This is a Sansevieria, oh, now I'm forgetting the name of it. This one is the Laurenti. This one is one of the newer snake plants that I've had. I've had the larger version of this plant. This is the miniature version of the Laurenti. This one is a smaller size, fits great in a window, fits great in an office. All you need is some sunlight, some water. It's already got the soil and it's going to be just fine. This plant is a great gift giving plant. In fact, I got this plant as a gift and it's very low maintenance, very easy to take care of. Snake plants can thrive in lower light conditions, but that does not mean that they prefer lower light. In fact, all plants prefer medium to bright light. And when I say bright light, I mean like indirect light, but there are some snake plants that you will see on landscaping. As an example here, some snake plants are used outdoors and can tolerate full sun. Now, if you get a snake plant from the store and it's not already outside, where it's giving you that proof from the store that it's been outside already, you might want to slowly introduce your snake plant to the outdoors and then gradually to an area that has sun. But going back to snake plants. Snake plants are originally from West Africa, shout out to the motherland, and they've grown in like very dry conditions that exist there. Snake plants will adapt to pretty much any climate that is warm, that is moderate. These plants do kind of hibernate in the winter if they're indoors. Do not leave them outdoors in the winter time, especially if the climate drops below 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. Really anything less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit or anything less than like 18, maybe, I don't know. I kind of get confused with Celsius, but anything probably less than 10 degrees Celsius, you want to make sure you bring that plant in because it's probably going to be too cold for it to sustain itself. So yes, the Sansevieria Laurenti, I got this one last year as a gift, and this is the only pup that has grown from it so far. I have not moved it up from this small pot. Will I move it up eventually? But I'm not really in a rush because I know that snake plants, here's a tip, like to be a little bit root bound. So speaking of root bound, I want to go over to my larger snake plant and talk about why they like to be a little bit root bound. So this plant I had in a 9.5-inch pot for 8 years. And in the 9th year, I decided to pot it up to this 12-inch pot. And when I took it out of that 9-inch pot, it was pretty challenging because it was pretty root bound. And even over the years, there was plenty of space that it had to grow in that 9.5-inch pot. So I did not move it out of that pot for a long time because I gave it plenty of room to grow. So when I moved it up to this pot size, it started growing even more rapidly. It started shooting out new rhizomes, and it's almost too big for this pot too. So my next step for this snake plant is probably going to be to separate it, which is why I wanted to talk about this snake plant. So this is the plant that I've originally had for over 10 years. This is a plant that is not from this one. This one I got independently. So I knew that this plant was starting to get big, really getting more mature in size. I did not want to separate it out because it was one of my plants that I really wanted to keep in its original form. I didn't want to separate it at that time. So in this was around probably 2022-ish maybe, that I saw this plant at Kroger and I said, you know what? Snake plants are so lovely that I am very comfortable with having more than one. In fact, I want to have more than one Sansevieria Moonshine because I have multiple bright rooms in the house that I was staying in at the time. So I wanted to have one in one room and I wanted to have another in another room, but I did not want to separate that plant. So I got this one. So this snake plant, snake plants grow in these little things called rhizomes. So do I have an example of one? Yes, I do. Here is an example of a growing new rhizome. So they start out this really bright, almost white looking. And then as the leaves mature, they start to get darker green. But Sansevieria Moonshine snake plants like this pretty much keep that lighter tone for a long time when they're new leaves. So they still retain that bright silvery sheen for a long time. And then really these leaves that are darker are very mature leaves, much older. But as they start out, they'll start out this bright white, like this one right here, and then they'll continue to grow until they reach their length of maturity. And that length of maturity is going to depend on how much light you're allowing your snake plant to have. So if you want your snake plant to grow and be large like this and be taller, have taller leaves, you'll want to make sure that you give it plenty of light. This snake plant started out probably along the leaf size of these. So if I sit these next to each other, you can notice how much taller the bigger plant's leaves are as compared with this smaller medium-sized snake plant. This one is not really a comparison as far as leaves, because this is more of a miniature plant. So this miniature size Laurenti is not going to shoot out the way that this one is. Snake plants come in like different varieties and different sizes. So the miniature type of snake plants are not going to ever really mature to this size. You'll need to have a snake plant that is already a larger size. And then that plant, once it's propagated, the newer leaves, as a new plant, that plant is going to be new in its mature size, but it is going to not be a miniature plant because this has its own growth stopping point, if that makes sense. So these leaves, like this miniature size plant, is never going to get really much taller leaves than what this tallest leaf is. Not until a very, very mature point in its life, but it's really going to maintain that small size for a very long time. It's going to take a very, very long time. So anyways, new rhizomes. Very bright, very light, and will grow and mature. So here is an example of a little bitty tiny new rhizome coming in this medium-sized snake plant. So sometimes the rhizomes grow like right next to another one. Oftentimes they won't grow where there's more soil. They'll want to grow next to other mature rhizomes. That's something that that has happened. This one did not do that. This one kind of grew in its own space, and you would think that that would be what snake plants would do, but no, they like to grow closer, so they're going to crowd up that space, and then those roots are going to grow and continue on until they decide to branch out and go somewhere else. So yes, going back to my big, lovely, mature snake plant. So how have I maintained it over the years? I have fertilized this plant on and off over the years. The last time I fertilized it was last year, but it's still growing pretty rapidly. In fact, it's grown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new rhizomes this spring, summer alone. So I will not be giving it any fertilizer. In fact, I need it to calm down and not keep growing so much because you're getting big, you're getting heavy. So I can barely hold him with one hand now. Like I have to carry him with both hands and pick him up like it's a big kid now. So you see how big it is. Like if you know, you know. So it's no longer a plant that I can have on like a plant stand. It's really starting to turn into a floor type of plant because it's so large. Whereas this plant is still a windowsill, still, you know, a plant stand type of snake plant. But really once they get too mature, they're going to be too big. They're going to be a little bit too heavy as well. And so I want to talk about, when I talked about the leaf sizes of these plants, I want to talk about how some of these are a little bit shorter. And if you notice right here, these leaves are much shorter than the ones on the outer edges. And the reason why is because these are still relatively newer leaves. So there are some older mature leaves here in this mix. In fact, there's another rhizome right there that's growing right there in the mix. So this plant has the maturity, has the capability of really reaching higher heights with its leaves. There are some older mature leaves on here that are shorter. Now that this plant has been a floor plant, you'll want to start watching out for spiders that try to get in. But snake plant leaves are pretty thick and pretty resilient. So I've been noticing like a few little webs that have gotten into this plant lately. But it's pretty resilient, and they're not affecting this plant at all. In fact, it's probably killing the spiders versus the spiders trying to eat the plant, because it's very robust, very thick leaves, so not something that's easily chewable, spiders. I also want to talk about the soil requirements for this plant. So the soil requirements for snake plants, it likes soil that will dry out pretty easily. So you'll want to make sure that you use soil that is not going to retain a lot of moisture. So you'll want to avoid peat moss. You'll want to avoid really moisty type soils and stuff like that. So I have a standard potting mix actually for this plant, this snake plant. And when I put this standard soil in this plant, I got it from HEB. It's a grocery store chain here in Texas. It's not Miracle Grow. It's not one of the other ones, but it was really a local business that sold soil to HEB, and I purchased that soil from HEB, and it was really good. So if I can find it, I'll put a link in the description box below and tell you so you can get that soil if you would like that. But that is the rundown on the snake plants. I really just wanted to talk to you all about it because I haven't talked about them in a long time. Snake plants are really great, really resilient plants, very forgiving plants. They will love you when you don't love them. They will be with you through many phases and stages of life. This plant has been with me through many different stages, happy times, sad times, very difficult times in my life, and it's still with me. And you know, I look at the seasons of life and the things that I've endured, and really just looking and knowing that I've had this plant over the years and that it's been with me through so many different seasons and circumstances. It's really a part of me. So that's another reason why I haven't separated this plant out, is because it means so much to me. All of the new rhizomes that are growing out of it, all of the new rhizomes, the new leaves that are growing in those rhizomes, the mature leaves. I can even point to a mature leaf that I remembered years ago when I was in New Jersey, and I carried this plant with me when I was a traveler, and because I was moving quite a bit with plants as a traveler in healthcare, and I left my plant in the car, which I had to that day because I was going somewhere out of town that weekend, and so I had to have my plants with me. So I had the plant with me, and I went to work, and I came back, and it was really hot in the car. I watered the plant, but the water really went through, and one of the leaves was wilted, and I tore some of the wilting off of that leaf, and it retained with the tear marks on it. So that was in 2018. And let me see if I can find that leaf, because whenever I see that leaf, I always think of that day. And I cannot find it now. I used to be able to find that leaf pretty easily. Oh, here it is, here it is. So here is that leaf, that one leaf that I tore the wilting off of it in 2018. And now it is on the outer edge. When I had this plant at that time in 2018, this leaf was probably more along like the center part where these leaves are. And over the years, as it's grown, it's pushed out, newer leaves have grown in the center, new rhizomes, new leaves that have come for those rhizomes have pushed those older leaves out. So that leaf is now right here. And I always remember when I left from that area that this was that leaf that I did that to that day. So what a time, what a time. So this plant has been with me for so long, and I did not mean to ramble and share this much for so long about this plant, but I really do love snake plants, and I hope that you want to add them to your home. And I'll try to get better at storytelling so that I don't run over to my time so much. But anyways, I hope that this video was helpful for you. Just a few tidbits to take away. Snake plants will tolerate lower light, but they do love a bright, sunny window. It is a myth that snake plants are low light plants. They do like low light. They can survive in low light, but really snake plants are higher light plants. And the reason why I know you're going to get the growth that you want when you add when you place it in more light, just like this one. So I think I did mention this earlier, but I did have this plant under a covered patio at one time when we lived in the house that we lived in for several years. The back patio faced the north and it was covered. So there was a lot of bright indirect light. So the sunlight never hit it outdoors. The only sunlight that's really ever hit this plant has always been indoors. And it's been fertilized on and off, or fertilized or plant food over the years, more so in the earlier years, and then probably every other year since then. So this is my snake plant, and my name is Jaleesa, and this is Green Mable, and I hope that I can help you in your plant journey for a long time. And if you have any questions, please drop a comment below, and let's keep the engagement. I'll see you all soon. Bye now.